Today I'm going to cover a really useful drill that I've been using a lot recently. So it's where you go from a straddle L sit position through to a planche. Now it doesn't have to be a planche, you could be a crow position and go through to a straddle L. It's really good if you're working planche, if you're working straight arm strength, if you're working press to handstand, if you're working straddle position, or if you're working to the stool to press, or a combination of all those things. And the cool thing is it can be good for any level. So today I'm just going to quickly run through the drill and I'm going to show some progressions and some regressions to suit everyone. So first of all, we need to warm up the main two things. We need to warm up the hips and we need to warm up the scapula, that protraction position. First of all, we just need to make sure that the wrists are warm, the hips are warm, the scapula is warm. And then we need to warm up the two positions. So we have the straddle position, the straddle L sit hold, and then either the planche or the crow position, depending on what we're going to start with on the other side. So for the planche, I'll do some scapular push-ups, some planche leans, and then just some easy variations of the crow. If you're going to go to more of the advanced planche positions, then just make sure that your tuck planche is warmed up. Straddle, once we have the flexibility sorted, we need to then warm up whichever straddle L sit hold position we're going to use. So if you don't quite have a straddle L sit on the floor, grab some yoga blocks, grab some boxes so you can raise your hands up. Just if you are going to raise your hands up pretty high, then just make sure that you have something to fall onto if your butt comes backwards. You just don't want to have your hands high and fall back onto your butt because that hurts, especially on this concrete. And then the big one that makes this drill much easier is to have a smooth floor and socks, or to use some sort of furniture slider or something that you can slide your feet on. So the easiest way to attack this first is to go from the easiest position you have on the other side, so probably going to be the crow for most people, then slide the feet through to your straddle L sit position. So that's the one where you're going to have to play around with the hand position in terms of the height. And if you only do the eccentric first, so the crow to the straddle L, that's going to be much easier than going from the straddle L back to the crow. So you're just going to have to explore which variation that you can do on the eccentric, and if you have a concentric, again, which variation you're going to do. So some people will be able to go to a certain range or certain variation with the eccentric and the concentric, and then when it gets too hard, they're only going to be able to do the eccentric. So from the back position through to the front, they're not going to be able to pull back through from the straddle L to that same position. So one option you have is to go from the hard version on the eccentric and the easier version on the concentric. And we can have some variations. We can go from a standing position through to that straddle L. We could go from a squat. We could go from a crow. We could go from a tuck planche, or from any of the more advanced planche positions. And obviously the same on the way back with the concentric. From the straddle L, you could come back through to the squat, to the standing position. You could come through to a crow, a tuck position, a tuck planche, a straddle planche, a full planche, or anything in between. We can make it easier by more foot contact or keeping the knees bent when you go through to the straddle L, and you can make it harder by keeping a straighter leg and with less contact on the way through. And for my hardest variations, what I've done the concentric only. So I started in the straddle L position, I went through to a straddle planche, and then came back. And then I tried the same in a full planche. Now I don't quite have a full planche strong enough to play around with, but I was able to flirt with that position for a couple of seconds and then come back again. So I'll be interested to know how you guys go with this drill. Let me know if you run into any challenges either with the flexibility or mobility or the strength of the going through with the planche position. Remember, to make it easier, you can elevate your hands. You could go right up onto a high box, which I've shown in one of my other videos. And that way you create a lot of clearance for your feet, but you still have the support if you come down onto your butt. Thumbs up and subscribe would be appreciated, and I'll speak to you next time. Thanks guys.